You still there, Dick?
I am.
Okay. Now I can't see you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can?
I can hear you, which is good. So we're gonna go with that. Hold on 1 second. We'll go with that. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Transition Tuesdays for this Tuesday, January 25th, 2022. I am your host, Russ Williams. I'm so glad you could be here today. I'm quite aware, ladies and gentlemen, you could have been anywhere in this world today, but you decided to be here with me. And I appreciate that. And more importantly, I appreciate you. So welcome to Transition Tuesdays, ladies and gentlemen. We got a little late start. I got this incredible guest here. It might be an audio portion, but we're going to have this young man on here. Young special guest, are you there right now? Let's see. I'm having some... Oh, you there, Dick? Okay. Hey, Dick, can you hear me?
I don't know if young or me. The right one. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's coming up rather choppy, and I don't see your face, but I hear you a little bit. Hey, let's do this. Hey, Dick, you there? All right, let's see. Let's see. Let's try this. Okay. Dick, let's try this, sir. Can you hear me? All right, Dick, we're going to try this. We're going to do this podcast style, okay? In which I'm going to call you and interview you that way. And my lovely audience, the Transition Army, will be able to hear you. So let me try this, ladies and gentlemen. And again, this is done live. This is what happens when you go live, but that's okay. I'm going to call my special guest. See if I get him on the line.
Yes, hello. This is Dick Weiss. I'm not here right now.
Okay.
Here's the message, and I'll be more than happy to get back to you.
All right. Hey, Dick, do me a favor. Just hang up the phone, and I'm going to call you on my cell phone, okay? That we're going to conduct this lovely interview during this time, okay? So just hang up for me if you can, because we can't hear you right now. All right. So what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to attempt to call my special guest again. See if he'll pick up, and we'll do this podcast style here on Transition Tuesday. I'm so glad you guys are sticking around with us, too. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate all of you sticking around. Thank you so much. Let's see. Let's see.
Yes, hello. This is Dick Weiss.
Hello, Dick? Hey, Dick?
Please record your message.
No, not yet. Okay. We're going to hang on tight. Because I can't see my guest. Let me do this. We're going to try something new today. All right? Now, I'm going to get a hold of my guest. But before I do that, I just want to read his bio. Okay? Now, my guest, who's going to come on shortly, he was raised in Upper Darby, Pennsylvania. He has a degree from Temple University in Communications. He's the National Sports Media Hall of Famer. He's received the Kurt Gowdy Award from the Naismith Hall of Fame. He's a Philadelphia Sports Hall of Famer, a Big Five Hall of Famer. Okay, he's that as well. This guy has such an extensive bio, man. He's the recipient of the Big East Media Award. Hold on a second. Maybe I can join. Maybe he can join. No. Hold on a second. We're doing this live, ladies and gentlemen. I think my guest is trying to contact me. Let's see what we got. Just bear with us for a second. All right, Dick, you there?
I am. Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you. Okay, so let's do it from here. All right.
Sounds great.
This
Not a problem.
okay. Hey, so Dick, so what I'm doing to my audience is I'm reading your extensive bio. Okay. So,
Whatever you want.
all right. I was there with the recipient of the Big East Media Award and preseason NIT Award. He's the author of 17 books with Rick Pitino, John Calipari, Dick Vitale, and a tribute book to Coach K. He worked 20 years at the Philadelphia Daily News and 23 years with the New York Daily News. He's the past president of Basketball Times Magazine, which I remember being in that subscription one time when I was a senior, I think a junior in high school.
Very nice.
Yep. He was the College Football and Basketball Writers Association Hall of Famer. He's been to 48 Final Fours, 48 Final Fours, and 38 national championship games. And he's credited for giving UPenn's Palestra its name as the Cathedral of College Basketball. And there's a reason why they call them hoops. So, ladies and gentlemen, Transition Army, please help me welcome Mr. Dick Hoops Weiss to Transition Tuesday. Sir, how are you today?
I'm great, Russ. It's so nice to talk to you. Hey, you have to tell me about the picture in your background there.
Okay, let's see. Let me just pull it up here.
No, I want to see the picture, your picture.
You want to see my picture? Okay, hold on one second.
Right behind you.
So my picture that you see is a couple. The picture is my picture at Manhattan College because I played at Manhattan College. And that's my picture there, my senior year. So, yeah, that's an action shot. I didn't have a lot of action when I played there, Dick. But it is a quote-unquote action shot.
Did you play with Chris Williams?
I did. I did play with Chris Williams.
Good.
Yes, I did. Uh-huh.
Player.
Yes, I did.
Go Jasper.
Yes. Go Jaspers. Absolutely. Yes. Hey, so Dick, man, I'm hoping this is taping, which would be great, man, because I'm just going with the flow here, man.
I'll do it for you.
Yeah. I just don't want to miss this opportunity. So, Dick, man, a couple of questions. I had a number of questions for you, and I appreciate your time, with me today. Thank you so much. Hey, so Dick, how are you and your family coping in this COVID era that's going on right now? How you guys doing?
It's really hard for me. I work for a website that sends me all over the world. Mm-hmm. I was supposed to go to Japan for the Olympics last summer, but COVID just wiped that out. I wasn't ready to get on a plane and go 19 hours into a country 6% vaccinated. And it's really limited the amount of trips that you can make. This website that I work for literally sends me all over the world to cover international basketball.
Wow.
But I mean, mostly involving junior and senior U.S. teams. Mm-hmm. But I mean, a lot of the events that took place, big events, 19 under World Championship, made it very difficult for you to travel in Europe and Asia. Mm-hmm. So that's been hard, and really, it's limited the amount of travel that I've done. I actually started traveling again this November, Russ. I was in the Bahamas for the Battle for Last.
Okay.
To see Baylor play.
Oh, okay.
And then I went to Indianapolis just 2 weeks ago to watch the Alabama-Georgia football game for the national championship. So I'm finally starting to get back. But, boy, I'll tell you one thing. It's just scary. And in order to get credentials to any of these events anymore, you have to be double vaccinated and boosted. Mm-hmm. I'm both, thank God.
Yes.
So it really has opened some doors. But you are still in the midst of huge crowds. Yeah. Now, when you're in the press box, it's a little less stifling. But there are 80,000 people at the football championship. It can get crazy. I mean, it's a super spreader event.
Right.
So you just have to hope for the best. You know? Yeah. And I'm planning to spend the entire March on the road. I'll be in New York for the Big East tournament.
Okay.
And then I'll do the NCAA tournament for 3 weeks after that, and it'll wind up in New Orleans. So it only shows I'm getting older. I mean, I've been to 48 Final Fours, which is pretty unbelievable. I started going in 1970. I missed a couple of years because I was covering the Sixers with Julius Erving.
Ooh.
But over and above that, I've been lucky enough to see all of them, and it's been great. I'm going to try to do 2 more.
Okay.
At 50, and then I'll become a patron of the arts.
Hey, Hoops, do you have like that one Final Four, that one national championship game that sticks out to you in your mind?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think that when I was growing up, it was really hard for Eastern teams to compete for national championship. Now, part of that had to do with the fact that UCLA won 10 national championships and no one else won any.
Right.
But after they formed the Big East, suddenly you had all of these teams who were able to start getting the best players in the East Coast sign on to play for their teams.
Right.
I mean, every team had at least 3 or 4 guys who could have played in the NBA.
Yeah.
Couldn't even compete to win a championship back in the early 80s.
Right.
Georgetown had the great teams with Patrick Ewing. And the one event that really sticks out to me was 1985. Villanova is in the national championship against Georgetown, and they're playing in a Final Four in Lexington, and there were 2 other Big East teams.
That's right.
St. John
And Providence.
They had Lou's best team. It might have been Lou's best team when they had.
I agree. Yeah, they had a great team. And you know, we had Gene Smith on here yesterday, or last week.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, we had Gene Smith on, so he missed that '85 team, but he won the championship in '84. But continue on that, Hoops.
No, they were, and that was a great team.
Yeah.
I was in Seattle when they just completely shut down Kentucky in the second half. Kentucky shot 2 for 33 in the second half against Georgetown. Georgetown was so good defensively, and you know when Villanova played Georgetown that year, Georgetown was a 13-point favorite. No one figures Villanova has a chance. Of course, no one figured Villanova would play the perfect game.
I know.
They shoot 78 for the game. They shoot 90 for the for the second half. And it's funny. The one team Villanova couldn't beat that year was St. John's.
Right. Yep.
And Villanova might have been the only team in the Big East that had a chance to beat Georgetown, because their kids had played against them all up at 5-star. I mean, you know, Patrick was at 5-star, and so was Eddie Pindy and Dwayne McClain and Gary McClain.
That's right.
So those kids all went into the game, and they had an understanding, and they weren't overwhelmed by the Georgetown pressure the way most teams were. Because back then, you were in a situation where you might have had 1 or 2 ball handlers, and guys like that, Georgetown were just meat for Georgetown, because Patrick would just stand at the back end of the press and just swat everything down.
That's true.
He was a hard guy to score against. And Georgetown's kids played so hard and so physically, it was difficult getting into any sort of offensive rhythm. But that game was such an unusual game. I still remember when it ended. Eddie Pinckney jumping up and he was a local New York kid.
That's right. Yeah.
He jumps up on the table and starts. The game was played April 1st.
Yeah.
Jumps up on the table and starts screaming, "April Fools!" because no one thought Villanova had a shot at that game.
Yeah, I remember.
64. First time I'd ever personally covered a team. I was still working in Philly at the time.
Oh, okay.
First time I'd ever really personally covered a team that won a national championship. And I figured this is never going to happen again. Then, 30 years later, 2016 and 2018, Jay Wright is coaching Villanova. They win twice in 3 years. It was pretty amazing when you think about it. But I think that one of the biggest things that happened to me, Russ, is the fact that Eastern teams finally have a chance to win a national championship.
Right.
And you've seen it happen now. I mean, Syracuse has won, Georgetown won, Villanova's won. I mean, the times have changed, and they've all changed for the better for Eastern basketball.
That's true. That's true. How did you feel when Villanova won, since you're from PA, How did you feel, man?
You know what? 3 months later, I was still pinching myself. I was down in the White House at the Rose Garden, and they had a ceremony with Ronald Reagan. I still said, this didn't really happen, did it? It just seemed like one of those fairy tales that you dream about.
Right.
When I grew up, I used to go to Pleasure all the time. Used to have double headers down there, and used to pay like $3 to get into the games for seats, and you just felt like this is the best thing you could possibly have in college basketball. But you never thought the Philly teams always found a way to lose the big game. Or maybe would miss a big shot. Jameer Nelson would miss a big shot. I mean, they would always be close, but they never really were able to get over the hump. And even though all 5 of those Big 5 teams got to Final Fours, only one prior to Villanova, and that was LaSalle in 1954, they ever won a national championship. And that was a little bit before my time.
Right.
But, I mean, the idea that Villanova, frankly, was not the best team in the Big East during the regular season. I mean, the teams that were ranked 1 and 2 in the country were Georgetown and St. John's.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and for Villanova to win, yeah, it was a big deal because it was like Philadelphia's moment, and
right.
you know, it was Wally Massimino's moment too.
Definitely. Hey, Hoops, man, do you remember your first sports written assignment? Do you remember your first assignment that you ever had in your career?
Yeah, I do. It was they sent me out to cover a kind of a Formula One race at the Trenton Speedway. I mean, and I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea who I was talking to, but I got through it. But I think the best thing that happened to me is when I was growing up, I mean, you go to the cluster, you see people down there working, you said, boy, this is not the worst place to make it. The worst way to make a living. So I was a sports editor of the school paper when I went to Temple. I played soccer there. I used to go to every Big 5 game that I could. When I finally got a chance to cover it, it really meant a lot to me. I mean, I still remember 1971. Villanova makes a surprise appearance in the Final Four, and they're playing UCLA in the championship game. And Howard Porter, the late Howard Porter, is the starting center there, and it was like a huge thing for me. I mean, here I am, this 21-year-old kid. I'm at the Houston Astrodome watching Villanova play at UCLA, and they actually had a chance to win the game because it was the year in between Alcindor and Walton. And UCLA had a couple of years where they didn't have the great big band the way they did during those stretches of dominance. And I still remember thinking, God, this is unbelievable. A Philadelphia team could actually win a championship. Didn't happen, and 2 days later, sadly, they reported Howard Porter for signing a professional contract with the ABA, and Villanova had to vacate their Final Four finish. But the idea of being there in front of a huge crowd, and back then they used to play the Final Four in basketball arenas. The Astrodome was the first time they actually played a game in front of like 40, 50,000 people, and it was a huge thing. And now you go to a Final Four and they're playing before 70,000 people. Back then it was all played in basketball arenas in front of maybe 16, 17,000.
Man, wow. Hey, Dick, you mentioned the Palestra, and I have some history with the Palestra. So I was
very impressive. You played against LaSalle.
We played against LaSalle, and Lionel Simmons scored his 3,000 point.
3,000, yeah.
Yep,
against
us at LaSalle, and the confetti just falling on my head and everything. But I remember that game at the Palestra, 3,000 point that Lionel Simmons scored that day in the Palestra. So I got some history with that place.
Manhattan had pretty good teams back then. They got to a conference championship against LaSalle, didn't they?
Yeah, my senior year. Yep, in '92. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Remember that?
Yeah, we lost that game.
LaSalle was really good.
Yep.
And they were in the top 10, 11 teams in the country
yeah,
that year.
Very good team.
They played a lot of big time games that season. at the Palestra, and they were playing some games at Convention Hall, but you still felt like when you played at the Palestra, it was really an intimate place. It's a gym.
Yep.
I mean, it was built in 1927, and you go there and you felt like you're right on top of the game. It was, but there's a lot of basketball history that went down there. And it's one of those Philadelphia treasures that you appreciate. I mean, when I went, I'm sure it's the same way with the Garden. You play in the Garden, it's a special place.
It is. It really is.
Did you grow up in New York?
Yep, born and raised. I was born in Manhattan, raised in Queens. Yep. Went to school in Manhattan.
Nice.
Yeah. So born and raised here in New York City. Hey, Dick, I want to ask you a couple of questions too. This is a question I have for you. You've probably been asked this question hundreds of times, but you've seen millions of players, from all walks of life. Do you have like a top 5 like players that you've seen live and in person who meant a lot to you?
Well, I saw Calvin Murphy play when he was in college at Niagara.
Oh boy, okay.
5'8" guard. I mean, I saw him get 52 in LaSalle.
Tough as nails.
The South team who had 4 future NBA players, and he just dominated everyone.
Wow.
No one could stop him.
Right.
I remember watching Bill Bradley from Princeton back when Princeton had a team that got to the Final Four. I thought that was great. And then, all the tournament games. I mean, I saw Walton's great game against Memphis where he shot 21 for 22 and finished with 44 points. That was pretty amazing.
Right.
I just think that, you can pick out players, but I think the players that always stand out to me were players I saw early in my career because most of them stayed 4 years.
Yes.
It was pre-one and done. I mean, look, Carmelo Anthony had a great game for Syracuse when they won in 2003, but he was going after that.
Yep, that was it.
And all of a sudden, he's the number 3 pick, and he's playing the Olympic team next year.
Right.
I mean, so it's always nicer, I think, Russ, when you get to know the players and you watch them kind of grow up. Look, I'll be frank. I liked it better when there were actually freshman teams before 1973.
Wow.
Because you'd come in and the kids would all play together as a freshman, and you get so excited to see them when they finally suited up for the varsity. Now, most of the guys who play who play for teams, if they're any good, they're stars as freshmen, and they're gone after their first year.
They're gone. Yeah, that's true.
It's just different. The game's a lot different, Russ. I mean, we're living in an era where you have the transfer portal.
Oh, yeah. That's changed the game.
It really did. Last year, they had 1,760 kids in the transfer portal. And guess what? 600 of them weren't even contacted. It was like crazy.
Wow.
So these guys are giving up Division I scholarship because they all think they're better than they really are.
Yep.
And then they get in the portal and nobody's contacted them. And the other thing that's really changed is you're in a situation where you have that name, image, likeness.
Yes.
Down. And you have a lot of players making a lot of money now. But the quarterback from Alabama, Bryce Young, freshman, who was the Heisman Trophy winner this year. I mean, he had contracts worth close to $1 million before he ever played a college football game.
You gotta love capitalism. You gotta love it.
Well, these kids love it, and it may cause some of them actually to stay in college a little longer.
Yeah.
For the money they're getting paid.
This is true.
I mean, how about the 2 kids at Memphis this year who reclassified up from? They were supposed to be seniors this year. Jalen Dorn and Ebony Bates. They both reclassified up so they could get into college a year later because they all wanted to get the money and they all wanted to get paid up front. And I don't blame them.
Yeah.
I mean, these people are putting a lot of money in the pockets of colleges. If they have a chance to make some money for themselves, great.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's a trickle down effect, and after you stars, a lot of the kids just don't get paid, but they do get scholarship money.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah, Dick, it was funny. My freshman year at Manhattan College, I took a communications course, and I wrote a paper. And now this is in 87, 88, and I wrote a paper saying why college athletes should get paid. And I tell you, this is during this time, so people weren't aware that the college athletic scholarship for college, you can't work during the season. They didn't realize
That's
that.
ridiculous.
But I got so much hate on that paper. I mean, the class almost turned on me. They were like, "How can you say that? You got a college scholarship already? What are you talking about?" Now you fast forward to 2021. Now the college athletes getting paid. So if my paper was able to help out.
If it was in column now, people would feel a lot different.
That's right. Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, I would like some reparations if I can, there, Dick. You know what I mean?
We all would.
Right.
You know, I mean, you think about it. All these colleges, all the players have played college basketball for free.
Yeah.
I mean, not for free. You're getting a scholarship,
Right.
But no financial reward.
Correct.
And the colleges are selling their jerseys.
Mm-hmm.
They're making money off them when they play games.
Yep.
Some coaches are making millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you would think that college players probably do deserve a little bit, some of it.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I think they're finally starting to get it.
Yeah.
I think when the NCAA went to court and they lost,
Mm-hmm.
and they opened the door, everything has changed now.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if we're gonna recognize college sports 3 years from now.
I know.
Because,
That's true.
you know, it's a lot different. You're not going to be playing for the alma mater as much as you're going to be. The great players are going to be playing for the side factor and the money they have a chance to make while they are participating in the college level.
That's true. That's true. Hey, Dick, man, what do you think is the biggest misconception about you?
I don't know. I don't know.
Wow, I stumped you. All right.
You know, I would hope this.
Mm-hmm.
I would hope people would appreciate the fact that I actually studied to learn the game. One of the things I did was in college, and I did this in particular, I played soccer when I was in college.
Okay.
And one of the reasons, I was a bad goalie in a great soccer team, okay? But over and above that, I played because I wanted to learn how hard it was for teams to work for success. We made the NCAA tournament of the year. We were number one ranked team in our region. But it taught me one thing. It taught me never to take a cheap shot at a player who's 19 years old. Because they're kids.
They're kids.
And I think you always have to keep that in the back of your mind. And whenever I write, I think you can be critical, but I don't think you can ever be personal. And it's something I think a lot of people don't know about sports writers in general, because most of them are cynical, and a lot of them like to yell just to hear themselves talk. And in New York, when I went to New York, you could do it one of two ways. You either had to know more than anybody, or you had to yell louder than anybody.
Wow.
And I chose the former as opposed to the latter.
Absolutely, man. Hey, Dick, man. So you, like I mentioned earlier, you authored 17 books, right? So, which is great.
That's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work. So, what would be the first sentence in the Dick Hoops Weiss book bio? What would be the first sentence that you would pen?
I hope I did it the right way.
Oh, I like that.
You know, in this business, Russ, you really only have one thing in the end. It's your reputation. And you're in a situation where your image is really important, especially now that everybody has cameras, and you have to do everything in your power to make sure you don't embarrass yourself or the people you work for.
Right.
And I've tried to do that part of it, and I was able to survive for a long time because of it. And it's something that it's something I try to remember. I mean, this is a fun job, I won't lie. When I worked in New York at the Daily News, I thought I had the best job in America because they never said no.
Right.
They literally would send me anywhere I wanted to go. It was a fabulous job. And so with college football and college basketball, the only thing I had to do was get to an airport. They were happy.
Wow.
I mean, because let's face it. I mean, aside from the basketball in the winter and the games at the Garden and the Big East tournament, you have college football is not. New York doesn't really have college football. They have the Heisman Trophy, everything else, the home teams for New York, probably Notre Dame and Penn State, back when Paterno coached. But, I mean, so basically, the job allowed me to literally go on the road and go pretty much anywhere I wanted to go. We used to cover college basketball through the eyes of St. John's if they're already good.
Yep.
Okay. We made sure we kept an eye on the local teams, and if anybody did well, we made sure that we were there to cover them. We had a guy, Sean Brennan, who covered a lot of.
Oh yeah, I remember him. Yes.
Sure. And so he handled that, and Roger Rubin handled St. John's, and I literally did all the national stuff. And it was I loved every second of it, but I think that you better appreciate it because sadly newspapers are dying.
I was going to ask you that, Dick. I was going to ask you, do you think newspapers will make a comeback?
Papers now,
yeah.
I mean, they're a shell of what they used to be.
Yeah.
When I first got to New York, our circulation of the Daily News was like 900 plus maybe an extra 100,000 every time the Yankees won a playoff game. So we had 1 million circulation, 1 million circulation on Sundays. That was a big deal. We were like one of the 2 or 3 biggest papers in America.
Yep.
And I always remember that because right now all the papers are dying. I mean, people get their news through the internet.
Yep.
They get their news because they want to either be entertained or they want to be on shows like yours where they where you can get opinions out over the air. And I just think there are less and less people picking up papers. I mean, in my hometown, when I worked in Philadelphia, when I left, the circulation of the Philadelphia Inquirer was like 800,000, and the combined circulation of the Inquirer and the Daily News is like 850. Now, the circulation of the Inquirer and the Daily News on a daily basis is 91,000.
Wow.
It's really bad. And the circulation Sundays for the Inquirer is like 156. So newspapers are dying, and eventually we're all going to become dinosaurs because all the younger people are living off the computers, as you know. I mean,
right.
You obviously made a smarter move. You couldn't be having the same influence you have now if you weren't doing this type of show.
Right.
I mean, I think that's really. I think it's important. You just reach a lot more people. The people that that listen to your show appreciate what you do because they can see you and they can hear you.
Yes.
I mean, newspapers now, people just aren't picking them up the way they used to, and it kills me because I love the profession. But I always felt like if you wrote, you had a chance to either do something to change the world or write something to give people some perspective about the game that you just watched. That was important. Did you like journalism when you were?
No, not at all. My major was business management. Never got involved with journalism. I just put out a show I thought people might enjoy. I thought I was a little selfish, Dick. I was like, I think I would enjoy it, so I think others would enjoy it too. So, but no journalism background at all. Just like just
That's nice.
Yep, just living off experience. Hey, so Dick, man, the question I had for you. Oh, we talked because I have a couple, written down for you. Now, you wrote those 17 books, the author 17 books. What do you think the key is to writing a successful book? If there's any keys.
Bringing the people that you write about to life and putting the reader in a situation where he feels like he is part of what you're writing about. If it's a big game, you need to get your readers to feel like they're there on the spot, and they can feel the same things you feel when you were there. I also think it's really getting to know the people you write about, and don't think you can just do a book. Like most of the books I write are as told to books. Okay, so you write them with a coach as opposed to write them on a coach. Okay. And after it's over, I kind of only will do books with people that I like because when the book's done, you want to be able to walk away and still be friends. Right. And the deal that I would make with these guys was, okay, I'll write the book, I'll put my opinions, but if there's something you don't want in the book, you have final say on what's in the product. It's just the way I work because it makes for an easier relationship. And frankly, that's the type of thing that opens doors for you. I think if coaches trust you, you get a lot more out of it. Maybe you'll miss one or two stories, but you know, you might get 10 more because a coach will say, this guy didn't burn me. You know, I have my own set of principles. I will never quote a coach over dinner, never quote a coach in a bar, and I use a tape recorder. When the red light's on the tape recorder, everything is on the record. When the red light's off, everything's off the record. It's the only way you can get people to trust you anymore because so many people now are into like trying to get ahead quickly, especially with social media.
Yeah, definitely.
So many people just want to get it out first, and they don't really care if it's right or wrong. And I think that kills the profession.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, Dick, was there that one player you wished you covered but never had the opportunity to cover?
Well, that is a really good question. I think maybe Will Chamberlain.
Oh.
Maybe Will. Now I saw him in the pros, but coming up, he was the biggest thing ever to come out of Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Overbrook and Kansas. I wish I'd gotten to see him play in college when he was still Wilford Still before he became this bigger than life creation in the NBA who scored 100 points. I wish I had been there are about 60,000 people would tell you they were in Hershey the night he scored 100 points. In effect, there were only 3,000. But everybody wants to think that they were part of the biggest moment that he ever had. But he was one of those players, he could do anything he wanted. I mean, offensively. He didn't always win championships, but if you look at his personal decisions, I mean, he had games where he had 56 rebounds.
Yeah, yeah.
Games, I mean, he had a ton of games where he had over 70 points.
Yep.
It was a different world back then, but he did play against centers like Bill Russell and Nate Thurman, who were in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
So
that's
he
true.
did play against some pretty good people.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Didn't he lead the league in assists?
I wish I had been able to spend more time with him. I interviewed him a couple times. I did a radio show for a little while for WCAU, which is a pretty big station in Philadelphia, 1210. It was like a 50,000 watt station. And they used to have a sports show. And the late Bob Petrone and I did a huge interview with Walt one time. And he's a fascinating person.
Yeah, that's what I hear. That's what I hear. Man, that is so good. I just was thinking, Hoops, that did you, Tom Kichowski, the Super Scout, did you have like a friendship relationship?
Okay. We know each other for 40 years.
Okay, all right.
I always thought that he did more to promote. He and Howard were both together in 5-star, but Tom was the most thoughtful talent evaluator I had ever run across. He always had time for everybody else. And he would, the one thing I loved about him, he would never evaluate a player he didn't see. A lot of guys now who have scouting services put out information on players, they've never seen him play. But this guy, every player he ever evaluated, he went. And he never had a car.
Right.
So
never had a car.
He would get around the city on public transportation, but he would very rarely miss a big game, particularly in the Catholic League. Now, where did you play high school?
I played at Mount Senior McClancy High School in the CHSAA.
All right.
Yep, with Donnie Kent.
But he would try to get to everybody's game at least once.
Right.
And and when people would ask him about a player, he could actually tell you about him. And most of the coaches had that type of respect for him before the days when people were playing travel ball and traveling all over the country, and people couldn't ordinarily get around and see kids play.
Yep.
And they loved. And he always had an argument for why a player could play at a specific level.
Absolutely. Hey, so Dick, man, where do you think your next transitional journey will take you?
Probably in retirement.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing. I mean, I've had a great life. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, you can do 50 Final Fours.
Man,
I started when I was like 21. That's a
wow.
long time
Yeah.
to be doing this stuff and really enjoying it. And I've gotten a lot out of it. And a lot of my friends now are either starting to retire or no longer work for the papers where they started,
Yep.
or their papers don't have the money to send them to Final Fours anymore.
Hmm.
It makes it hard walking into a press box not seeing the people that you used to see all the time. I used to walk into a press box anywhere in the country and you'd know 50 people just like that. Now maybe you know five
Yep.
because there are less people doing this job, and there are less papers with the money to send people. I mean, right now most papers concentrate on sending people cover professional sporting events
Hmm.
because they feel they get the most hits on the internet from that, more so than college or high school. But I
Right.
think that the one thing we miss is a newspaper should be a complete newspaper. I mean, when I first got to the Daily News, we used to do two pages a day on the high schools. It
Yep.
was a big
Big
deal.
deal.
I mean, and they used to cover all the local colleges too, and you used to build your readership because people started reading your paper when they were 10, 11 years old. And if you got your name in a newspaper when you were